You ever have those moments of like look up at God and like, are you sure? you know, let it all go. But one of the things
Yes.
that I love about you is that you say what you do is not who you are. And so many times what we do becomes our identity.
Mhm.
Who are you without that? Not only that, but remember when you're a little kid on the monkey bars on the playground? You can't go to the next one until you let go of the one you're on.
Come on.
And so many times we're holding on to things back here that we're saying we want to go to the next one, but we're not letting go back here.
Yeah.
You gotta let go and swing to the next. So I had to let go. And it was hard. It was hard. Because I've never tasted success before.
Hey, what is going on, you KTCers? If you're brand new, that's Keep the Changers. We're so glad that you're here with us today, as we always are. I'm never going to say I wish you weren't here. We're glad every one of you are here, and thank you so much for joining us for another, I believe, incredible, just ask me, issue of Keep the Change podcast. So, hey, I got to tell you a story. Last weekend, as we're filming this, we're last part of September, I had an opportunity to go to a conference called Focus Conference with good friend Dan Nicholas. Dan organized all of this with such speakers as Les Brown, Ed Milat,
Right.
Ed Rush. Thank you so
Paul
much.
Martinelli. Yep.
Yep, Paul Martinelli, thank you for helping me. And a bunch of people that were just pouring into us. It was 2 days of intense, powerful communication. And this gentleman that is here with me today was one of the speakers. And I am just so honored that he would join me this morning on Keep the Change, because I knew when I met him at the table, and I told him that my son was supposed to join me, but he had some issues where he couldn't come. And you said, let me do a video for him. And you walked around the room and you did a video. You didn't know me. I didn't know you. You didn't know Ty. But for you to do that and to pour your heart into that just showed me immediately what your character was. So thank you, Westley Morris. Welcome to Keep the Change. Glad to have you here, brother.
Hey, good morning, Bart. And thank you for having me. And yeah, our connection was instantaneous. It was sparks, and like people attract like people. So you are my tribe. And then, as soon as you told me the automotive industry, I immediately went into the Rolodex of my memory and said Chris Saraceno, and instantly there was a connection there, of course, because he's another one of the greatest people that I know. And yeah, we became fast friends real quick.
Yeah. Talk about just the quick coincidence. And we all get it. Ain't no coincidence. Not at all.
Right. That's right.
So, Wesley, you were supposed to speak the second day at about noon. You had an opportunity to get pushed out a little bit. And you and I were talking before we got on this stage with KTC about the good thing about getting pushed back a little bit was that you could watch 2 days of speakers and find the energy of the room and really in your mind plan on how you were going to approach this topic that you were going to come to the table with. But before we even get to that and what impact you made on that stage, and I will tell you, I had people come up to me saying that had to be the best talk of the whole 2 days, which is, it's stunning when you hear that Ed Milet and Les Brown were on that stage, and Ed Rush, and people saw you as being one of the best speakers of the 2 days. So I want to congratulate you with that. But all of it comes from a place where once upon a time in the land of Pennsylvania, that you walked through this journey and it led to that talk that you did in Midland, Texas. So tell us about you. Tell us about your journey. Tell us about what got you from there to here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was supposed to be a farm boy. So my family still owns a 365-acre working farm in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. I come from an area where work ethic is very important. It's of the highest value. And, my grandfather was one of the greatest horse trainers that I've ever met, Bart. And at 6 years old, he takes me out to the barn and he grabs a handful of corn. Now there's a young horse running around the corral. And he says, watch this, Wessie. and he makes a sound with his mouth, and he gets that horse to come eat right out of his hand. And he looks down at me and he says, Wessie, all relationships move at the speed of trust.
Ooh.
All relationships move at the speed of trust. I learned that at 6 years old.
Wow.
I learned so many principles from the farm that I carry into my leadership and into my life today, right? Just another one real quick is on the farm, they wake up at 4:30 in the morning and they feed their animals first. Before they eat breakfast, before they shower, before anything, they feed their animals first. It's life sustaining and it's a non-negotiable. Doesn't matter if it's rain, hailing, snowing, they feed their animals first. It's a non-negotiables. And it's so important that you, number one, feed your team. And number two, that you have non-negotiables in your life. I know that you and I both have non-negotiables in our lives, right? This is what gives us the ability to do what we do. You got to have non-negotiables. So mom took us from the farmland in the 80s and brought us to Pennsylvania. She set out to be an entrepreneur. She saved up money. She bought an old building. It was an old bank. She put walls, electrical, plumbing. She set out on the American dream. She opened up a massage therapy company. And I thought I had a normal life, football, baseball, wrestling. And my whole life changed when I was 12 years old. At 12 years old, I came home from wrestling practice and the state police detectives had my whole house surrounded. So I'm standing on the sidewalk. I'm scared. I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. And I see my heart, my mom, my everything get carried out in handcuffs. And at 12 years old, February 18th, 1997, I found out my mom was running a prostitution ring out of her massage parlor. And I was crushed. So I went down a bad path, smoking, drinking, couldn't tell me anything. Long story short, by the time I was 19 years old, I had 3 DUIs and 7 underage drinking charges. I lost my license for 22 years in the state of Pennsylvania. And never once, Bart, did I think, could it be me, right? It's not my fault. It's the cop's fault. It's my mom's fault. It's everybody else's fault but mine. Never wanting to take a look in the accountability mirror. So I know what I'll do. I'll move to Philadelphia. So at 23 years old, I moved to Philadelphia, running from me. And long story short, I end up being a homeless heroin addict in North Philadelphia, selling bottles of water for $1 a piece. I was 50 pounds less than I am right now. I was malnourished. I was dehydrated. And I had abscesses up and down my arms. I defecated on the public sidewalk. Animalistic level. And I saw the darkest side of evil that I've ever seen on those streets. Lost souls. And I was one. And one day I just, my mom walked in on me about to stick a needle in my arm. And I dropped to my knees and I prayed like I've never prayed before in my life. And it was the most humble prayer. And it was, please, God, help me. And from there, I started to start the process of change that you talk about in your book, which is why I love the name Keep the Change. It's so good. And it has so many meanings. So, like I started on the process of the 12 steps. And, I'm going to say this. I've been in the personal development space for quite some time right now, right? I've seen a lot of programs. Some are very good. Some are the best in the world. There is not a program on the planet that creates change like the 12 steps do. Hands down. And here's the beauty part. It's free. All you got to do is mess your life up. But don't do that. But if you do, there's a guide. And that's what I did. I embarked on that. And I really, here's the deal. I got clean 2012. Okay. I just stopped the behavior. But I was still living the same way I was living when I was using. I just wasn't using anymore. So obsession met opportunity and boom, I used. Right. And I struggled because it's almost like God gave me a gift and I threw it back in his face. So, and I got it from here, God. Right. And I struggled. And it wasn't until I made a complete surrender that I was able to get clean again. And when I did, I fully took my hands off the wheel and just allowed God to work in my life through sponsors, through other people, through service, through all of it. And I'll tell you what, boy, my life turned out way better than I ever could have done on my own.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
so true.
Yeah.
So how in the world that happened, man? I mean, I get it. I get it. I get it. And that's why you and I, dude, we're kindred spirits on this journey, right? It's unbelievable. And you know what's so funny is that my wife and I are ministry leaders, Celebrate Recovery. We just celebrated our 3rd anniversary last week. We had 150 people in that room. And that might not sound like a lot to some folks, but that's probably 90% bigger than most churches. But it started with 40. And then in the last 6 months, Wesley, it ended up it doubled. And there's 20 more every week. And
Wow.
it's so God's ministry. But what for me, I had when I got, and you know the story because you've been so kind to jump into the book. But by the way, I love your book too, man. I love it. Love it. Keep peddling Westley Morris. We'll talk about that as we go along here. But I had that thing, right? I had my why. And for me, my daughter was my why. I weighed up like you, 150 pounds. I was using $5,000 a month in cocaine. I had just gotten fired from a multiple 6-figure job. And I was relieved when I got fired. And I realized later, it took me decades to look back and say, why was I relieved? It's because now I could get help. And then I realized, well, why did I need help? Because I didn't want my daughter to see me like that. And I didn't want to be that as a parent. And I have 4 kids by birth now. And guess what? 3 of those 4 never seen me use. And one of them was a year and a half old when I stopped using. So what was yours though? What was it, man? I mean, you got the needle in your arm. That was it. Your mom saw you. What was the why, the because for that massive shift?
Yeah, it's one thing to have a problem. It's a whole nother other thing to feel like you can't talk to anybody about it.
Come on, bring it.
And the shame and guilt that I felt on a daily basis. And it's almost like you're underwater and you're screaming for help, but nobody can hear you, right?
Oh,
Eh, yeah. And, when she walked in, the gig was up.
yeah.
The gig was up. And then the pain in her eyes was just more than I could handle, right? The fear in her eyes. Because you got to understand something. I have a sister that, struggled with opiate addiction for 15 years. And if you've ever been around somebody that's, really struggled with opiate addiction, it's not pretty. It's, I mean, the family life, the dynamic, the stealing, the lying, the anger, man, we went through that for 15 years. It was traumatic. And here I am, and my mom's watching me, for the first time, sees me about to go down the exact same path, right? And it was more than I could handle, right? It was more than I could handle.
You had said in your book that I said I'll never do that before. And you had your pop was a great mentor for you, your grandpa. And he had a huge influence, as we talked about a bit ago, but you were on the right path. Obviously, seeing your mom, that was the storm. But you said you'd never go through that before. And then one day somebody introduced you to a pill that you had no idea what this pill was about, but it made you feel better. You had, I believe, a sore back. Is that what it was?
I was a workaholic. I still am on any given day.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
that changed things. That sent you down to that spiral that you really didn't. You said, I'm not going there. I'm not going to be like my sister, right?
Oh yeah.
About that. Tell me, what was it that got you there? And then I want to go back to what was it that turned it all around?
Yeah, I mean, take the specific substance away, right? I got introduced to, just smoking weed at 12 years old, right? Smoking cigarettes, you know what I mean? Smoking weed, drinking, all that, right? And it was a slow progression, right? And I think that one of the I don't one of the worst things is a slow death, right?
Yeah.
And our addiction progresses slowly because we keep this social acceptability. And I've always kept that social acceptability. As long as I have a job and a place to live and, all the things that society says you're supposed to have, I can justify, doing a bag of Coke on the weekends, right? You know what I mean? And I did that for quite some time, right? But I'll bring this back, Bart, and you'll get this. I would find myself swearing up and down, not this weekend's going to be different. And Friday at 5 o'clock, I would get an 8 ball Coke and I would start. And next thing you know, it's 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and the sun's coming up. The birds are chirping. People are going to work. My nose feels like it's about to fall off. And I never felt so alone in my life.
Yeah.
That empty feeling, right? So before it was the pill that I didn't know where it was going to take me, there was a lot there prior to that. It just didn't take me down and remove the social acceptability as fast as those opiates did.
Yeah. So when I first met my wife, again, we've been married a little over 10 years now. We're ministry leaders together. She's my best friend. And she's so wise. But when I first met her, I was doing a lot of talking at CRs and talking about my story. And 3/4 of the story was what I did wrong. And about 1/4 of the story was the victory at the other side, right?
Right.
And your victory is so powerful. We get that you and I were in the pit, and we get that we got of it into peace. And our greatest message is funny, almost at AA meetings and CR meetings, everybody wants to tell a darker story. Hey, that was a great testimony. Well, because it was so dark, right? But I think we need to talk about the great testimony because we recovered and where we are. And that's where you come from, such a powerful place. You are not who you were. And I love you quote Maxwell Maltz, we cannot exceed our own level of self-belief. And I get your mentor is also my mentor, Paul Martinelli. And he had massive belief in you, walk the talk with what Paul said to do. Tell me how you turned this thing around and how you got from where you were to where you are.
Yeah, I mean, it all started with a surrender. And Paul was talking about that this week in the power of surrender, right? And the results in my life at 28 years old, at 35 years old, at 40 years old, and even when I'm 50 are going to be a direct result of the thinking that I have, right? So when I was at my lowest of lows, it was a direct result of my thinking. So I had to surrender my thinking. And that's easier said than done, right? Because what do you mean? What does that mean? Well, that means that rather than relying on my own understanding, I need to either borrow someone else's understanding of life, of business, of relationships, of whatever it is, until I have a better perspective and can formulate my own ideas that are in my best interest. And that's what I had to do. I had to basically let go and let God. And when I did that, my life started to, you got to understand, I come off the streets. I'm an iron worker welder. I have a big ego. I come from a place where men don't talk about their feelings, right? So I go from being an iron worker welder to becoming a massage therapist within the course of, I mean, basically a month, right? And yeah, that was a big shift. It was a big shift, but just allowing, a power greater than myself to guide me.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
So,
what led to that.
so you changed your whole way you looked at yourself. You had a different image. And it sounds like your iron worker welder, say that 22 times, persona was going to shift to being a massage therapist to serving people. Tell us a little, I mean, that's like different spectrums. you
Yeah.
had to see yourself differently, right? And that was part of the journey. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, I mean, I had to act my way into a new way of thinking, which means I had to get uncomfortable. Here's the story. So my mom gets arrested in 1997 for one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen anybody go through ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in a small town, you know what I mean? There was no walking away from this was 1997. Okay. We still had newspapers as the main form of news, right? And
Right.
she was on the front page of it. Okay. So I watched this woman stay in the same town underneath the same branding in the same line of work, just legitimate massage therapy. There was no more of that exotic stuff, right?
Yep.
And I watched a whole town kick her back in while she was trying to change. 3 years after that arrest, I come home from wrestling practice. Ma, how was your day? Wes, I want you to meet somebody. And I look to my left, and there's Donovan McNabb, the head quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. My mom goes on to be the head massage therapist of the Philadelphia Eagles from 2000 to 2012 because she fought. Imagine if she would have quit
Yeah.
and just gave up, right?
Yeah.
So that was her story, her comeback story. Mine was that it took me another 20 years to process my trauma, okay? And when I finally did, and finally turned my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him, I get a message and it says, "Go help your mom." Go help my mom. I'm an ironworker welder. You want me to go rub dudes' backs because I was immature at the time? And I had low insecurities, you want me to go, "What?" "Yeah, go help your mom." And at the time, I didn't know anything about business. I had limiting self-beliefs, right? I could barely read because my motor skills were so messed up. So I really had to scratch and claw to grow. I lost my license for 22 years. I'm riding a bicycle, and the business is 8.5 miles away from where I live.
Mhm.
How are you going to grow? How are you going? But I set out with a goal that I was going to grow my family business. And my why was not so I could see numbers on a screen. My why was that I wanted to make sure nobody ever called my mom a whore ever again, because all the great things that she did, she never changed the name of the business. So, Bart, it takes 20 years to build a good reputation in business. It takes 5 seconds to lose it.
Yes.
And once you lose it, you may never get it back again. So I set out on a mission to make sure that this was my family name.
Yeah. Here's
And
your
here,
why.
yeah. And we're going to put it to bed.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did.
Well, different stories, same thing. When we can look at people that we admire and love so much, it sounds like in many ways your mom was your hero. You had a number of heroes, but for your mom to transform herself was such a great example to you. My mom was my hero, and she was so full of wisdom. And fortunately, I got to hang out with her in her 90s. And when we used to have talks and we used to hold hands and listen to Frank Sinatra together in her room, but I'll never ever forget those moments. And I had so much respect for her. And it sounds like you had, as the journey, as she transformed, she was a perfect example of transformation. You had massive respect for your mama as well. So great story, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yeah.
So from that, how long did you have that business? Tell me a little bit about what transition next. You have become, you're on this journey of a well-known speaker. Get this, you guys, as you listen to me talking to my buddy here, my new buddy, he's got this book, Keep Pedaling, and he'll tell you about that story. But Paul Martinelli, again, our coach, I refer to Paul a lot. He's a guest of the podcast. He was here about 3 weeks ago.
I listened to it last night. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
did you? Right on. The wisdom of PM, right? I predict that Westley will be one of the top speakers in the world. That's what Martinelli says. When you get that on a endorsement like that from one of the greatest coaches ever, business leaders ever, that's good stuff. So thank you. Now you're building the business. Tell me how the journey progresses.
Oh man, that was an incredible time actually. So it's 2016. I've got a year clean. I got 9 months clean, right?
Amen.
A second go around. And I get this divine download and this message and this assignment basically is what it is. Have no idea how it's going to happen, right? And in the early days, I remember my mom just saying, Wes, all you got to do is show up.
Ooh,
50% of success in life is showing up.
yeah.
40% is having a good attitude. You show up every day and you have a good attitude, you're gonna rise above 90% of most people, right? And that last 10%, man, that's faith. You're gonna have to see it. And I saw a vision and I just woke up every day and I started the reprogramming process. So not only did I embark on the 12 steps, but actually, I heard Les Brown say this on a YouTube. One day I'm on the back of the bus and I'm going, to work and something just told me to look up YouTube motivational videos. And I had never really gone down that path. It never really happened before. And, the first video, it made me feel good. It made me feel okay. And I remember hearing Les Brown say, you know, the first 20 minutes that you're awake, your subconscious mind is operating at 10.5 wavelengths per second. That is when you are most susceptible to new information. So I just started waking up earlier and I would go downstairs, I would pour the coffee, I would put on YouTube on the thing, and I would just sit back and drink my coffee and listen for 20 minutes. And then I would write my goals down every day in a notebook. Everybody thinks this is big. Just write down every day what it is that you want to accomplish. Right. And that's what I did every single day. And I just got 1% better every single day. And I would go to work and I would put my best foot forward and I had no clients in the beginning because I'm a male massage therapist in a female dominated world. And I just kept showing up and kept showing up and made little incremental changes, through the process. And one day I made a decision, we were a Google search away from finding out what happened 20 years ago. Try to get something off of Google. It's hard. Yeah, it is hard to do to bury something. So I just said, you know what? We're just going to start fresh. And I started the rebranding process and, I new facade on the building, new name, new website, new awning. It was beautiful. I painted the front. I got, improvement money from the town, from the city. And I just kept going. And one night, it's 9 o'clock at night. And me and my mom were power struggling, right? We're both bulls. And she wants to stay here and I want to go there, right? And we can't stand each other. It's 9 o'clock at night. She's locking up the door. I'm getting into my Uber. And I look up at the building, Bart, and it's beautiful. New lights, it's shining. It's beautiful. And I said, "Hey, lady, nice, freaking building." And she stops. She looks up at the building. She looks back at me, Bart. And she said, "My son did that.
Ooh,
My son did that."
how'd
And
that feel?
I realized that God wasn't taking me out of the gutter for me.
Mm,
I thought God was cleaning me up for me. I had no idea that other people needed me. My
mm,
mom needed me.
yes.
This is the same woman that watched me stick a needle in my arm.
Yeah.
So for her to say my son did that, it was incredible. Next thing the success of an organization is directly predicated to the psychology of the leader. As I grew, the business grew. And I can't give you the mechanicals. I can't tell you, how to put an email campaign. I can tell you, but that's not what happened. I grew and I began to attract others. I've never put out a help wanted ad ever. And I had 15 therapists working for me at one time. Never attracted every single one of them. And I started to treat them like human assets rather than human resources. We need to change that ideology. No more human resources. They were human assets. And what do you do to an asset? You invest in them.
Mm,
You
love
grow them. You check on them, right? That's the, nobody worked for me. Everybody worked with me.
it. I love it.
And I became a better leader because they knew that if push came to shove, I would give them the shirt off my back. And I proved that during COVID. Nobody went without during COVID. And when the yogurt hits the fan, that's when you find out what type of leader you are. And, we just kept growing. And I believe of being in service. I believe in giving back. I believe in, it's not all about me to the best of my ability. So one day I'm doing a chair massage event where I donate all the proceeds to the local track and field team, right? It's a car wash. I'm doing chair massage. This woman comes into my tent, beautiful, tall, athletic looking woman. And I put my hands on her. And just like you, Bart, I can tell, I can read energies. I'm very intuitive. Something was different about this woman. So I do a little Google search. Her name's Joetta Clark. She's a 4-time Olympic athlete. You ever seen the movie Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman?
Yeah.
That's her real dad, Joe Clark.
Mm,
She's a 4-time Olympic athlete, 27-time world champion. She's one of the top athletes of our era.
mm.
She's my best friend.
Oh my gosh.
She's literally, if we don't talk every day, there's an issue. Literally. She's got a daughter named Talitha. Talitha was 15 at the time. Talitha's a world champion in the 400 meter, and she's an Olympic hopeful. So I went from selling bottles of water in the middle of the street to working with Olympians and being on an Olympic class team and working with world champions and PGA and Division One. You know what I mean? I became an award-winning entrepreneur. I hold a citation from the U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives stating that I'm a good Samaritan. We grew the business 1,000%. We went from 40,000 a year to 40,000 a month, and I gave it all back. But we'll get into that in a second. So that's how it happened.
Oh, that's incredible. And I will say in your book, Keep Pedaling, Joetta, which I love that, wrote a great foreword in your book. You can tell there's a special relationship there. And yeah, what a great job she did at describing you and your journey. And part of that journey is your bike journey. Tell us about that and where that fits into all this.
So I built the business while riding a bicycle. And at the time, I'm 30 years old, full transparency. The first part of my 20s, I drove without a license because I didn't believe that, I was rebellious in nature. Okay. I don't recommend it. I took really big risks, but it is what it is. So when I got clean this time, I really took my hands off the wheel, and I sold my car after driving without a license for 9.5 years. And I started riding a bicycle, and I had no idea how I was going to pay my rent or anything. And in that process, I accomplished great things on 2 wheels, not an e-bike, a me bike, right? It became a part of my brand. It became a part of me, right? So what I thought was the worst thing that ever happened to me actually became one of the greatest things to ever come about. And so the bike is I've always liked bikes. It was my first sense of freedom, actually. When you're a little kid and you get a bike, it's almost like your world expands because now you have access to mobility. And I think everybody can identify with being a little kid, getting your first bike and just having that expansion of your awareness in terms of area. So, the business grows. I'm riding a bicycle. I got married. I'm starting a family. I bought a house. And one night, the business had grown to full capacity. I couldn't fit another client or therapist in that building. So the next step would be to, multiple locations. And I just didn't want to do that. And I hear this message, and it basically says, well done, good and faithful servant. You did what I told you to do. You never quit. You did it in excellent fashion. And because of your obedience, I got something else for you to do. Now I want you to let it all go. You ever have those moments of like look up at God and like, are you sure? you know, let it all go. But one of the things that I
Yes.
love about you is that you say what you do is not who you are. And so many times what we do becomes our identity.
Mhm.
Who are you without that? Not only that, but remember when you're a little kid on the monkey bars on the playground? You can't go to the next one until you let go of the one you're on.
Come on.
And so many times we're holding on to things back here that we're saying we want to go to the next one, but we're not letting go back here. You
Yeah.
gotta let go and swing to the next. So I had to let go. And it was hard. It's hard because I've never tasted success before. So I literally gave a $500,000 a year operating, fully functional, systems in place business back to my mom. And I walked
Mm.
away. Now I meditate every morning. I will not talk to you unless I meditate. It's one of my non-negotiables. One morning, 3 months after letting go, I'm asking God, I'm like, yo, I want to be one of the best speakers in the world, God. I have a gift. You gave me a gift. And one morning during the meditation, God says, oh, you want to be one of the best speakers in the world? Okay. Show me you're willing to do whatever it takes. Because where I'm about to take you is going to be harder than what you just went through. There's a nonprofit in South Carolina called Fire Pit Ranch. The mission of the nonprofit is they mentor young boys that grow up without dads. Teach them how to shave, teach them how to change a tire, teach them how to be a man. God says, I want you to go down there. I want you to go speak to 200 kids that don't have dads, but I don't want you to take a plane. I want you to ride your bicycle. I came out of that meditation and, are you sure?
Is that the language you used?
Tears in my eyes,
Mm.
conviction. Whoa. And October 1st, 2023, I left and I rode 479 miles on the Blue Ridge Parkway to Spartansburg, South Carolina. We raised, I think, $8,000 for that organization. And, I got down there and I did what I had to do. And I came back. Everybody always asks me, did you ride back? I don't know why they always ask me. No, God didn't say anything about riding back. I took American Airlines seat AC, C3. And yeah, I came back. And day 3 of processing what I had just done, I get hit at 3 o'clock in the morning with a divine download. And that divine download is what inspired the book. And basically, God says that bicycle that you rode is a metaphor for a successful, meaningful, and purposeful life.
Come on. Come on. Let's hear it.
And the first thing that you have is the handlebars. Those are our decisions. Our decisions create our destination in life. There's something called the law of polarity. For every good, there's bad. For every up, there's down. For every in, there's out. You have free will. Your decisions create your destination in life. And if you're an organization or just trying to find your way, it's important to define purpose in this season of your life, because your purpose is the filtration system in which you make decisions. So you got to make good decisions, right? Next is the frame of the bicycle. That's my mental and physical health, my mental and physical well-being. One crack in my bike frame, I'm on the side of the road watching everybody else go through life. So you got to take good care of your mental and physical health. Next is the pedals. Those are my dreams, my desires, my visions. The bigger the dream, the bigger the vision, the bigger the goal, the more energy and power I put to my pedals and the further I go. So you got to think big. Next is a chain. Those are my daily actions. They have to be in alignment with my pedals, right? If they're not in alignment, the chain pops off. And everybody knows that, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So it's actually our weakest habits that keep us from our dreams, not our strongest ones. Next is the gears. You're going to have to know how to switch gears at the appropriate time. Not only that, but there are systems and processes. Our systems and processes define how we get to the top of the hill. What gear are you in? Are you in the most efficient gear? Are your systems and processes maximizing your efforts? You can get to the top of the gear, but you're to the top of the hill, but your gears define how much energy you have to exert. Next is the wheel. That's my support system. At any given time, all my weight was on one spoke. And in life, you're going to have to rely on a handful of people. So make sure you have a good, strong support system around you. Next is the tires. Front one's filled with inspiration, back one's filled with motivation. Now, on that ride, I had to check and fill my tires daily. Because if you ever try to ride a bike on flat tires, boy, it makes it real hard to do. And if you ever try to go through life uninspired and unmotivated, boy, it makes it real hard to do. Next is the seat. You're going to have to support yourself. Nobody's going to believe in your dreams like you believe in your dreams. You're going to have to support yourself. Nobody's going to build it for you. What's the internal dialogue? What's the neuro-linguistic programming that you have about yourself and your potential? You're going to have to support yourself. 500 miles, you better bring some water bottles, though. What's in your water bottles, Wes? Is it filled with anger, resentment, limiting beliefs, and distrust of others? Or is it filled with love, hope, optimism, and joy? What are you drinking? Now, as we got down to North Carolina, I started to hit some tunnels. So I get into the first tunnel and it gets dark and I get scared. So I tried to turn my light on, but it wasn't charged up. So I get to the next tunnel and I flagged down a car and I said, hey, can I go in front of you because it's dark in there and my light's not charged up? The point, Bart, is that we're all going to go through dark tunnels in life. It's just life. Make sure that your light's charged up, but if not, you can borrow someone else's to illuminate the way, but make sure that your light is charged up. Lastly, and my favorite, you have the brakes. Everything in the universe is subject to the law of rhythm. Sun goes up, sun comes down. Tide goes out, tide comes in. It's been winter, spring, summer, fall for the last 6,000 years that we've been recording history. Sometimes you're grinding uphill, just trying to make it happen. Sometimes you got momentum and you're coasting down. On those downhills, don't forget to use your brakes. Slow down. Take in the views and enjoy the ride. We seem to get so fixated on getting to the destination that we completely miss the entire journey. And life is so beautiful at 8 miles an hour. So keep pedaling.
And that, on that note, it is the last page, on page 96, which says, life is so beautiful at 8 miles per hour. Keep pedaling. Amen. Amen. And the sentence before that, the last paragraph, the bicycle that I rode did not have the ability to go in reverse. Amen, amen, amen. The bicycle only pedals forward. That's Where right. Are you? Where do you want to be? What do you need to admit? What do you need to believe? What decisions do you need to make? I love what you've done with the bicycle. And I have to tell you, brother, I'm recording this. Of course, I'm going to go back and listen to it again. And you've motivated me. You've moved me. You've made me realize why you and I are sitting in the same room this morning. You've heard me say this on the podcast before, folks, but when I get to do a podcast with somebody, it is usually the most intimate time, because even though it's Zoom, we get to look each other in the eye and it's unencumbered. It just comes from the heart and from our thought processes. And there's no better way to meet somebody, frankly, than to have 45 minutes where we just get to do this. Now, bro, I hope you and I can break bread together, because Jesus says that's the peace. That's what he did. Let's break bread together. And I certainly hope you and I can do that. And I hope that you and I, again, can be on a stage together and share our stories together. How do people get a hold of you? Tell us a little bit about what your journey is now. Are you doing more coaching? You're doing more speaking? What is it that you're doing to serve the folks out there that are really needing to get to that next level?
Yeah. So I'm real easy to work with. You can just go to myname.com. It's Westley, Wesley Morris.com. You can find all information about me there. And also, my phone number is 610-554-5533. Real easy. Call me, text me, just reach out. What I'm doing outside of the speaking lane, which is my true passion. I've been in the energy industry since 2016. I've been helping people save on their energy costs. Excuse me. I've been in solar for the last 3 years. So I've helped hundreds of families convert to solar. I understand the energy crisis. I have a higher level of awareness than most, and I most recently restarted or recreated a network marketing business. And I love network marketing. I know maybe it gets a bad rap, pyramid scheme, whatever the case may be. I started a network marketing business the same time that I started Saucon Valley Massage, and I grew both of those simultaneously parallel in two different industries, which makes the story even that much more incredible. I went to the top 1% of that company, and it was the energy industry. And I've never seen a better model to, create entrepreneurs than the network marketing model, because it's already all the systems are in place for you, and it really helps you grow as well as earn additional income for a very low cost of entry. So I'm passionate about it. I'm with a company called Think Energy. We are this CEO, his name is Michael Falquest. He is revolutionizing the entire energy industry, and I'm really excited to be a part of that.
Right on. So if I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, let's say I'm a car dealer. Dude, I need this guy to speak to my people, right? All
Yeah.
that, or maybe you have a company that you just want to find out, how do we get them motivated? How do we get them to get to the next level? And yet, what I also think is there's a lot of people listening to this that are stuck. They might be broken. They might not be an addict, although we're all addicts at something, but they might just be stuck. And man, you need to reach out to Wesley, because I'm telling you, he obviously, as it says in the sign in front of me, Wes Morris inspires. You've inspired me. Brother, thank you so much. Reach out to him if you've got any questions. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your little plug in my book. I so much appreciate your book. And again, his is called Keep Pedaling, Westley Morris. Where can I get the book?
You could find that on my website. That is the only place that you will find it, because I like to hand sign them. I like to send, be intentional about mailing each book to whoever purchases it.
And your website again?
Westley Morris, Westley Morris.com.
Hey, brother, God bless you. I'm going to give you a 3-second hug here. And I just want to say, way to go for what you're doing. Way to go for your message. And love you, brother. Great hanging out with you.
I love you too. And thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Hey, everybody, go ahead and share this one. Subscribe if you haven't done so. You know all that. And we'd love to get some feedback. I know that this inspired so many people. Talk to you guys next time. Thanks for joining us on Keep the Change.